Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of The People Show, the show where we interview brilliant individuals and get their insights on their undergraduate experience. Here today with me, I have Abtin Amari, a MIT PhD candidate, and Arman Izadi, a software engineering student at McGill University. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves, guys.
Hello, my name is Apton. As someone already said, I am a first-year grad student at MIT, but I actually did my undergrad at McGill. I studied mechanical engineering, and I graduated just last year. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi everyone. My name is Arman. Like someone said, I am in my sixth year at McGill, bouncing around different majors, and now I'm in software engineering with a minor in economics. I have had an experience both as on-campus leader and extracurricular activities, as well as life at McGill and Montreal in general, and I'm really grateful and happy to be here. Thank you for having us, someone.
Of course, of course. Thank you guys for being here again. We're looking forward to this episode. I'll kick it off with just a little insight from Arman. You said you've been here for 6 years. How would you describe your McGill experience and your journey so far? And what would you say were your most pivotal moments and turning points along the way?
As most McGillians would say, it's not a smooth ride at all. It's definitely a stressful, sometimes toxic experience that can lead you to have really big doubts about yourself, who you are, what you want to do. And I think that's just part of growing up. I would describe my journey through McGill as tumultuous, painful, but insightful. Because had it not been for this university and this experience, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest to this, we wouldn't grow to be the people that we are, and we don't grow without hardships and challenges. What would I say would be pivotal moments or turning points? Um, Really, I've faced a lot of failure in my academic career, and a big pivotal moment was winter of 2018, when it's hard to hit rock bottom and decide that you want to get up and continue. And then I hit rock bottom's basement. So getting up out of that and trying to get back up in that winter required a lot of support from loved ones around me, from inspiration of friends and family, and a lot of time taken to look inwards and see what is important to oneself and what are one's values and one's strengths and weaknesses, and recognizing and having that introspection.
Of course, I completely understand, especially in the academic side. McGill can be very tough and rigorous and unforgiving at times. Me, myself, I'm also studying mechanical engineering here at McGill, and all I can say is, wow, what an experience so far, and hope to plow on in the next 3 years. But on the topic of academics, I know that Aptin, you have notably been involved in a lot of, academic endeavors and a lot of academic, fields, one might say. So you started off by coming to Canada from Iran at the age of 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So how was it like transitioning to the Canadian system from the Iranian system after 14 years of schooling, and then not only having to overcome those challenges, you had to go through McGill's rigorous engineering program, as you said. Like, this is all a lot of effort, a lot of accomplishment. And what would you say was the driving force, the motivation behind all of these accomplishments of yours?
Oof. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the transition was definitely not easy. Um, I mean, I don't think any immigration story is an easy one to tell. And it was definitely very difficult having to leave behind, my home and my relatives and all the memories that had made me the person that I was at that point, and come to a new place and face so many uncertainties. Um, but as time goes on, it always gets easier, and you adapt, and you overcome any challenges that you face. What motivated me to like keep going, I don't think it's like one driving force. I mean, there were many. In terms of academics, I mean, I was lucky that I was interested in the things that I was learning. In high school, I took great interest in whatever I was being taught. And when I came to McGill, mechanical engineering was something that really resonated with me, and it's something that I really clicked with. I found most of the subjects very interesting. And I really just enjoyed going to class every day and learning and doing assignments and things like that. So that was one thing, and there's also like secondary factors. There's like my family had to leave behind everything and come to this new place to like build something from out of nothing. And that was partly because of me. They wanted to build a better future for me, and I mean, like the one of the ways that I can pay them back for something so courageous that they did for me is by it's just by working hard and showing them that it was worth it. And then there's other things. There's so many people back in Iran who I think like deserve to come here more than me. And because it's just like they're so limited by the opportunities over there in certain senses. And I think that one way to it's one way to like make it worth it, like coming here and not have it be like a wasted opportunity that someone else could have had and made more out of. So yeah, I guess like those are some of the motivating forces behind my experiences.
Well, as you said, I think no immigration story will have its smooth sailing, as one might say. But I don't think there will be a lack of accomplishment for someone like you, especially.
Agreed,
I mean,
definitely.
like, yeah, like just being a friend of yours throughout your past 2 years, I can say there's only a never-ending list of what I can say that you will hopefully accomplish.
Thank you.
But yeah, I noticed that also what you and Arman have in common is you've both lived in Iran. And now, Arman, I come to see that you've also lived in England and now Canada. Like these are a lot of places to just bounce around between. What would you say was the biggest, like, let's say, culture shock you've experienced with respect to, your Iranian heritage?
It's interesting, and I'm sure all three of us can concur on this as people who were pretty ingrained into Iranian culture relative to a lot of second and third generation people. I like to think that we're more in touch with our roots, but one of the biggest thing is the culture of appearances, the culture of I don't want to say artificial manners, but the artificial politeness and the sense of appearances and public opinion that ties into the guilt that drives a lot of what happens in Persian culture. I think that's the biggest the biggest pitfall of that more Eastern culture and versus the Western culture, which is more individualistic. There's no guilt, there's no shame in going after what you want. There's very little there's still some concern about what public opinion is, but it's more so for personal image and less so for familial ties or for guilt to, honor. So that was a really big culture shock. And at the very base level of that, so the lowest granularity is when you start to, offer to pay the bill, which we're all very familiar. All our dads and uncles have always jumped at the opportunity. But I think one of the biggest culture shocks was that this is not a common thing that occurs. And it's not necessarily something that's a good thing either. It's the facade of manners. It's the pretension because it's an obligation whether or not you have the means or the desire to do so. So I find that it ends up becoming more fake than it can be. And obviously it comes from a very beautiful place of hospitality and generosity, but from what it's turned into these days, that was a huge culture shock for me to come to that realization that I don't have to do this every single time. That this is not what is drilled into us. But I'm curious. I mean, Abdin obviously is going to have a different opinion, and it might be different for each person. I'm curious to get everyone's opinions on this.
Yeah, I have to agree. On that note, I know that many Persians are here at McGill itself, and we pride ourselves in that. There's a large Persian community, and it really brings a sense of home to Montreal. But I guess that can also bring a different type of culture, shock, because to see so many Iranians adapt, different values and truly figure out what's right and what's wrong, it's very interesting to see. But I guess for me, I don't have many culture shocks per se. I think one of the biggest things that I was really confused about was how you actually eat with a fork and a knife and not a spoon
Dude, that's
and
so
a
true.
fork. I will
The
definitely
spoon.
say being called weird for taking a spoon instead of a knife
Yeah.
was
Yeah, yeah.
truly
Yeah.
something new. Um, it was very strange. I will say, I was like very used to, okay, I'm like having any dish, I'm having any rice dish, like just give me a spoon and a fork. And like, why would you
I
need a
need to
spoon,
cut the meat, right?
Yeah, like, but I think that derives also from Persian cuisine, how the meat is so tender, slow cooked, seasoned. You take all this time to prep your food, like when you have guests over, you take like 1 or 2 days. Your mom is stressed and you're preparing food with her, and that like again ties into what Armand was talking about, the whole hospitality of it. You're not just designing or making a meal for your guest. You're preparing a feast. You're literally treating them like royalty for the evening. And I think that's the biggest difference for me is like when I go to someone's house, like not only that, just the food aspect. Like, my family personally is very in touch with what we eat. Like we like to socialize over the table. We like to not necessarily talk all the time, but it brings us together as a family for a certain amount of time. For the 2 to 3 hours that everyone's free, that's food. That's no time for anything else. No phone, no nothing. Just that's the time for food. But yeah, and also the fact that I lived in very Islamic influenced countries. We use a bidet. That was also very different coming here. But I've managed to adapt. Portable bidets are a thing, and etc. etc. But Abdul, what would you say for you? What is your take on this?
Um, Let me see.
Culture shock.
Yeah, culture shock. I mean, there's so many for me when I first came to Canada. I mean that whole the taruf thing that's like the Persian term for it. Um, I mean, even when I was in Iran, I was pretty tired of it. To me, it's just so tiresome to like, I don't know, be like, oh no, let me pay the bill. No, please, I insist. Or like, oh, please, like, stay over tonight. It's fine. Like, we don't have like, a mattress for you to sleep on, but please do. Uh, and like, just coming to Canada and seeing that that's not like the norm here was a bit of a relief. Um, the other thing was like my relationship with religion that really changed when I came to Canada. So I actually used to be very religious when I was in Iran. And I think part of that was just because of how much it is drilled into you when you go to school in there. And when I came to Canada, I was given this, a gift in a sense that, I could question things. Um, that I actually did not realize I had when I was in Iran. So I started questioning things, and the more I questioned, the more I started to drift apart from religion. That was my experience. I'm not saying that anyone else should have the same sort of experience, but to me that was something interesting that immigrating to Canada enabled.
That's so true. Just the,
Of
the
course.
freedom of being able to think about that. That's so true.
Hmm.
Exactly. I mean, we all pick up different like traits going to school in Canada. I mean, me myself, I've only been at the undergrad level, not even high school, and I've changed dramatically over the last year or even over the last two. I think Armand can also attest to that. We've all grown as individuals and truly like
So proud of you.
truly modified our personalities to be our better selves. So on that
Hmm.
topic, McGill is a wonderful experience, a wonderful cultivating ground. So is any university. I just want to put that out there. So
Well,
like
McGill is better.
yeah, but McGill is always better. So Abton, like, what would you describe as like one of the most not essential, but let's say valuable to you quality traits that you've picked up at your time at McGill, and like why does this quality pertain to you? Why is it so special?
Oof, okay, that's tough to answer. The thing is, like, when I reflect back on my experience, it's hard to distinguish, what sort of character traits I came into university with, and then what sort of things I picked up. Um, but I think one thing that I really improved on was being able to have a proper work-life balance. That is not something that I had or even believed in when I was in high school, and that was not the case until halfway through university either, pretty much. But it's something that I learned about and tried to incorporate into my life the more time passed. And I think it's just, yeah, to me, that was like a very important trait that I picked up because it just helped me in all aspects of my life. Um, I mean, like socially, I don't know, mentally, all those aspects. I think that my life sort of got a boost, as opposed to just living on campus and studying 24/7, which was first 2 years of my, university experience, especially second year in which I took like too many courses each semester and pretty much died. Um, so yeah, I think that was like something important that I picked up, and it was something that I picked up from my friends. I think Armand was one of the people that actually really influenced me in that regard. Um,
No, it's
and
personal growth, man. We're just happy and honored to see you grow.
thank you. But yeah, it's yeah, yeah. I owe this to the friends that I picked up at Miko. Yeah.
I guess one of the most important things that I want to say for the people listening or watching this podcast as well is, especially now, please make sure you take care of your mental health, everyone. Please make sure you get involved in school. It's a wonderful way to make friends, be social, especially now with opportunities being so limited, with involvement and everything. It might seem like a waste of time. It might seem like boring at first, but you make invaluable friendships. I mean, both of these people that I'm hosting as guests on my podcast were made not only through academics and everything. I sort of became close to Upton through academic committee, and also making sure I always went to events and stuff like that. And I became close to Armand the same way. So if there's anything that from my end that I will say is invaluable is take your time off school, make sure you're keeping your head straight. It's always tough to plow through McGill's rigorous system. Don't worry, we're all in the same boat. We all come to McGill thinking we're brilliant individuals, but now we get placed in a just bigger pool. Like one of my friends labeled it in the best way. She said, "You're a big fish in a small pond at your high school, and then you're now a big fish in a much bigger pond, filled with even bigger fish." So just always remember that stuff does get better. Everything will work out if you just make sure you keep your mental health in check. Now, on the topic of involvement, me myself, I've indulged myself quite a bit. Nowhere near Armand's level, let's be real here. But Armand, a topic that I wanted to discuss with you was McGill's actual annual orientation week. So throughout your 6 years, you've been heavily involved in organizing McGill's orientation week, taking up a series of positions across, this large-scale event. So, how would you describe the experience of organizing such a big event, such an important event to McGillians, and how would you highlight the things that people fail to mention or consider about taking up such positions?
So you give me way too much credit than is due, Salman. I'm definitely not even the most experienced frosh board. There are people who've done it 3, 4 times. I've been lucky enough to definitely be a part of multiple facets of it. That being said, there are people who've held, the internal position that I haven't. They've held IFC positions that I haven't. So I'm definitely not the most knowledgeable out there, but I think each experience is unique. On that note, like a fun anecdote, one of the first interactions I ever had with Apton was through Frosh. Is the
Yep.
Frosh? Yeah.
That's
So
when we
it's
first met. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's and I'll never forget it. It was genuine. It's so genuine to see that as Frosh Board profiles get posted. He sees my name. He sees my hometown. He comments, "Oh, hey, I'm also from Tehran." And then him and I think it was Nima who like they
Hmm.
just found me at Park Party. Hey, you're that Cord who's person, and then we just chatted, we talked. Such a nice, genuine approach, and that ties into what I think is the most important aspect of Frosh is that burst of social opportunity immediately right into the door. It will set you up for your next 4 plus or 3 plus years at McGill. Like doing frosh is something that I think is so fundamental, that I think we as current students should always encourage future students to do, at the very base level, just because of the pure social benefit that it has. That being said, I do want to recognize that not everybody has the same experience. Some have had really bad experiences through Frosh, whether it be because of the organization or the leadership, and they might not necessarily have the same experience or the same personal like bias that I have towards it. But the numbers have been getting better, and every year we see more and more. content with Frosh and more people happy about it. One thing that I think people fail to mention is politics. So there's a lot of interconnected gears that move behind the scenes to make Frosh happen. It starts at the faculty level or non-faculty. It starts at the club level for non-faculty Froshes, and there's a governing body. There's the campus life and engagement office that has a hand in things. Then there's McGill as an entity who oversees it through campus life and engagement and has like certain rules and registration policies. And then there's aspects of during regular times there would be on campus bookings. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. There's also local city authorities. Part of that is learning how to navigate the politics behind things, and part of that is learning how to talk to people and resolve difference in opinions and differences in attitude with people. That's on a larger scale. On a smaller scale, it's working with a 12-person committee, and a lot of the conflicts that can come into with that, and that's something that people don't necessarily think about when they run for positions like Frosh, or when they plan to be a Frosh leader. There's a lot of, in any positions and major positions like this, that have a lot of public perception as well. There's these little interpersonal moments that you really have to think about. You really have to open your mind to other people's opinions, to other people's perceptions, and try to communicate well what your intentions and what your goals are. Yeah, that's my answer to that.
I think I definitely agree. I had the how would you say? I forgot the word for it.
The luxury.
The luxury. There you go.
Yeah.
I had the luxury of actually coordinating arts and science Frosh this year, and I say it was a fantastic experience, a fantastic growing experience. I wasn't always the best coord I could have been. I wasn't always as proactive I could have been, but having that team around me, it helped me grow as an individual, helped me, boost my own personality, one might say, and actually boost my own understanding of McGill politics, as you said, help my interpersonal skills, help resolve conflicts better. And I think that experience is invaluable, regardless at what level you do it at, regardless if you're a participant, if you're a leader, if you're an O staff, if you're a coordinator. I think Frosh is fundamental, as Armand said. Whether you got the chance to do it this year online, or hopefully next year in person, or the next year in person, fingers crossed. I really recommend that everyone take part in it if they had a pleasant experience, and if they didn't, you can be part of something fantastic, something that's moving upwards, as Armand said. The numbers are getting better every year, and that's due to the people participating and running the show. Like especially the leaders. I feel like leaders get sort of undercut with the amount of work they put into Frosh. Like my Frosh leaders made my Frosh experience everything. And the reason I wanted to participate again and actually coordinate Frosh was because of my leaders. They're fantastic individuals. Shout out to them. They know who they are. They really opened the doors for me in academic terms, in involvement terms, and just understanding McGill culture and having the culture of having fun, having fun, but also working hard, the work hard, play hard attitude. So I really think that Frosh is fundamental in these things and can really help you boost your, whatever interest you have, whether it be academics, or extracurriculars. So Apton, yourself, you have been, bouncing around with academics. We've been talking a lot about school. Let's talk about the more, let's say, bureaucratic schoolwork, one might say. What do you think were the challenges behind, holding your positions that you did within the EUS, such as the VP Academic of MAME and the VP Academic of the entire EUS? Like, in what way did these positions differ, and what challenges did they each pose?
Right. Yes. Sort of digress to academics because we want to say that this episode is not sponsored by the Frosh Committee. But
literally, like,
guys, Frosh is great. Sign up for it.
But
Use
also
the code.
but also school as well.
Yes.
but also school.
But also school. Yes. So yeah, for those of you who I guess aren't familiar, I was the VP Academic of MAME in the 2018-2019 school year, and the VP Academic of EUS in the 2019-2020 school year. So that's what someone is asking about. And like how the positions differed. Well, I mean, like the basic stuff is that main VP academic was on a departmental level, US was on a faculty level. So the scope and the responsibilities that I had were very much different. Um, Let me see. The challenges that I faced. Well, for Maine, you have. I mean, it's sort of a good and a bad thing. You have fewer responsibilities, and your impact is also smaller because you're just limited to your department. Um, on the bad side, if there's something that is affecting your department and it's on a faculty level, it's sort of out of your hands to address. I mean, so many students can come and complain to you, but you can't really do anything about it. Um, and that EUS is you have like bigger responsibilities and your impact is potentially higher, which is nice. But also, I mean, if you mess something up, the consequences are much bigger. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. Um, the the challenge that I guess both positions have is visibility and like the rate at which you can make progress. Let me where's the zoom that I lost it? But so visibility, I would say like VP academic compared to all other positions and student government, I wouldn't say it's the one that has the lowest visibility, but it does have low visibility. In the sense that people can't really see what sort of an impact it has on their day-to-day lives. And in a sense, it makes them not have an appreciation for the position. So I remember distinctly last year, I was talking to someone who was in engineering, and I don't know, somehow it was brought up that I was a VP academic, and he was like, "Oh, you're the VP academic of the US, so you basically do nothing." And I was ready
The
to get.
disrespect, the
Bro, square up.
disrespect,
Who's out
literally.
here saying that to
What?
my boy? What?
Wow, the
And-
disrespect.
Do we know this? Bro?
No. It's okay. They shall not be named. But I was ready to get all like defensive and be like, "Oh, actually, I do stuff."
Throw
But
it.
but the thing is, like when you think from their perspective, they do have a point in a sense that like what sort of an impact does the EUSVP academic have on their day-to-day lives? Like where do they see the role of the EUSVP academic fitting into their studies? I mean, we do still. I mean, the VP academic does have a role, but it's just hard to see because it's on such a large scale. So yeah, the position has low visibility, which is bad, but it's also good because you can sort of like do your thing, and people won't put you on the spotlight like they would with the VP internal. So that's sort of a thing that you have to deal with. Yeah. And then there's also like slow progress. I mean, with Maine, the progress was faster because you worked on a departmental level, but EUS is it's so hard to get things done because there's so many levels of bureaucracy that you have to go through. There's like faculty, and then there's like, I don't know, the board of governance of the EUS that you have to deal with. Each of which has like they're very rightly justified to exist, but it's just that the rate at which you can make progress is so slow because. Yeah, I mean, I had like so many goals that I wanted to achieve during my term, but I did not realize that they would be so difficult to achieve. So that is like a challenge that comes with, I guess, any student government position that you do have to deal with some bureaucracy.
I'd like to also point out to everyone listening and watching, guys, your VP academics do a lot of work. They really put their heart and soul into making your academic endeavors easier, but like also more fair for yourselves. Especially this year, our current VP academic of MAME is Seper, and he's doing a fantastic job collecting complaints and telling the professors what to do better, what to do differently. And we've seen major progress in numerous of our classes, and not only that, I know the previous two VP academics of MAME, which have been Mano and Aptin, as he said, were working very hard towards the curriculum review and making sure that was done properly. And I have to say, that will benefit the future of Mekis. Maybe not Mekis right now, but definitely the future. And that's something to always keep in mind, guys, that there's a lot of levels of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Aptin only touched on a few, and there's so many more to talk about. So many more, so many more. Academics is a big thing, especially for a university which is centered around academics. It's all fun and games until it comes down to actually making change, and then
Yeah.
people get very impatient.
Yeah,
But I
it's
guess,
hard to make change. Sorry, let me just add this one
yeah.
thing that it is hard to make change. One example that I think will be relevant to everyone is is lecture recordings. Uh,
Wouldn't be a podcast with Afton if he didn't talk about lecture
I
recording.
was
allow me,
waiting. I was
allow me to
waiting.
allow me to plug. Okay, so this is something that I worked on when I was mainly the academic, and I made like a survey and I presented it to the profs, and they just grilled me. They just roasted me, and that was it. Like no changes were made. And I guess it took only a pandemic for this thing to come to fruition.
Only a major global pandemic.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes changes are more difficult to bring on. What they see.
I mean, maybe now the professors will see the positive impact caused by lecture recordings and hopefully take it onwards. Let's
Yeah.
hope they do. I mean, we have our
Hopefully.
doubts. We have our doubts, but I can say lecture recordings have positively impacted me because God knows how much work I have to take on every semester in this program. But again, it's what I signed up for. It's what I want to do in my
Right.
life. So gotta just plow through it. On the topic of academics, I'm sure everyone has wanted us to talk about this, especially the global pandemic. Wow, this is going to be a lot of opinionated feedback coming right now. But how do you both feel that COVID has impacted the academics of current students or yourself? And do you feel that schools have adapted well? If so, what positive changes have they made? If not, what negative changes have they made? And we'll start off with Armand's opinion.
If you don't mind, I'd rather get Afton's opinion first. He does have a lot of like experience, both from like an organizational perspective and academics as well.
Of course, of course. Upton, please go ahead.
Okay, sure. Let me see. So I'll talk about myself first. It's definitely affected me in the sense that I am like my performance and my productivity is far from ideal. Um, I just cannot perform at the same level that I used to pre-COVID, and I think partly it's because um, I mean I just liked working on campus. I lived on campus 24/7. And whether it was like studying or getting work done with regards to involvement, I was always on like McConnell, Schulich, or Red Path. And I never associated my home with a place that I could work at because I just said that okay, home is like somewhere that you do anything other than work and you just like relax or do, but yeah, you just do anything else. And like having to mix these two has been pretty difficult for me, and I think that it's something that a lot of students around me are also trying to adapt to. Um, so yeah, I think that it's far from ideal. Wait, what was the other part of the question?
Have
The
schools
schools,
adapted
right?
well?
So I think this varies like very widely from university to university. I I don't know. I don't know what the experience of McGill students has been. So that's something that Arman and Salman can talk about. But I do know that online education does not have the same value as in-person education, and I can't really understand how McGill can say that it does with a straight face. Um, so so yeah, yeah, that's like one thing, and the other thing is yeah, each university I feel like it's adapted differently. Like from my experience, I think MIT has been it still has its flaws, but I think they've adapted well. Like in terms of I don't know assessments and examinations, everything has been take home for me. Um, and yeah, like I don't know, I had a midterm that I had 24 hours to solve. I had another take home midterm that I had I don't know a week to solve. Um, so I think that's a lot better in a sense academically because I just hate assessments that like time limitation is the key factor that separates students' grades. Like I don't want to do a test that's like okay, let me see how fast you can plug these numbers into this calculator and get the right answer because like that determines your GPA. And I think removing that time constraint is hopefully going to give students a better education in the sense that you can actually learn during your assessments and not just have to like like puke whatever you learned the 24 hours before onto the paper and just get it over with. So I think that's like one positive that could come out of it, but we'll see. And yeah, I mean that's been my experience. So I
Yeah.
don't know what else to say, but I
I
guess
mean,
you can type it
yeah,
out.
yeah. I think you touched upon two very important topics. First, you mentioned that the value of online education isn't the same,
Hmm.
which I think I agree if you're talking about the current state of education as a whole, where the prices that you're paying, especially
Hmm.
for an international student at McGill to then receive the online education that you do. But I
Right.
do think there's value in online education because there's since the late 90s you've seen open university, you've seen a lot of like online degrees for continuing studies. You see Concordia take like people at Concordia can take entire degrees almost and entirely online. So I
Hmm.
think there's it's more accessible.
Right.
Whether
Right.
or not the valuation is the same in society, that's a whole other topic. And like, whether or not you should pay the same price and you receive the same benefits, that's I think an entire podcast episode on its own. And then
Hmm.
the notion of whether or not there should be a time constraint. I completely agree that a time constraint is just regurgitation of knowledge, but another thing to keep in mind is how vastly different you've seen. Universities in Montreal have proctored exams where they get
Hmm.
kernel access to your computer and somebody's watching you take this exam. Then there's take homes, like you say, but then the take homes raise the question of do you find it more difficult because it's a take home? Could it have been easier or like more relevant to the material if it was in a 90-minute constraint? And then you have the kind of middle ground that you see at McGill, which a lot of, especially comp classes at McGill, what they've been doing is saying that rather the exam is designed for 90 minutes, but then giving you, a 3 hour time limit to do it in,
Hmm.
uh, so that the exam's 3 hours, but then you have 48 hours to start the exam. So this way they've covered an international student who can't, sit down at a set hour. You have
Right.
48 hours to start the exam. You still constrain the exam to a time limit, and then they finally still design the exam for the regular 90 minutes. So I like that little midpoint. However, that's just one class. I'm referencing Comp 251.
Hmm.
Um, it differs so insanely based on
Right.
prof and class and faculty and even department. Everybody has this free reign. Of course, faculties enforce some form of uniformity. For example, I think science, I might be wrong about this, but science has a policy where you have to give 48 hours to start the exam, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and each faculty dean can define their own, limitations. And I think that's part of what the biggest struggle is right now,
Hmm.
is in that regard. I also have, I think the luxury or the, you know, consequence of my parents, and I think Absence as well. The parents are academics, so I know I can see the side of them trying to figure out courses as well, and them struggling with trying to put out more content and trying to worry about cheating on assessments and trying to worry about how can they make things fair. And
Hmm.
I think keeping that in mind is also super important for us as students to think, hey, these professors are also doing their best. You have Charles Roth trying to learn how to use
Right.
a
Of
whiteboard
course.
and like a piece of paper. Like it's really hard for both sides, and whether or not that's been done, I think it's hard for me to say whether it's been done well. Negative changes that have been made, I don't think anything can be deemed necessarily as negative. It's not what the university does that makes it negative. It's how people are responding to this. Like people are taking this way harder than I am, and other people I thought would.
Hmm.
And it speaks to how isolation can really affect our academic performance as well.
Of
Hmm.
course. Like I think one thing that everyone can agree upon, and one thing that's really like not filtered well, or you see it everywhere, you see it on the internet, everyone complaining and or struggling, not even complaining, like like very valid forms of response to how everything is going. But I think one thing that everyone needs to keep in mind is, we're all on this boat. We're all in this boat, and it's tough. It's really really tough being all together and just seeing everything transform from being on campus 24/7 to being in your home 24/7. And not only that, especially for the people in Montreal, you know, it's never certain if Montreal is going in a red zone or in a green zone or in a yellow or orange zone. Every 3 seconds it changes.
All
you know?
colors of the rainbow.
Literally all colors of the rainbow. So I think the most important thing for at least Montreal students to keep in mind is, or just McGill students to keep in mind is, everyone is struggling as much. Everyone is doing the best they can, and that's all that matters. You know, at the end of the day, I think what everyone is worried about is, will I be penalized for this in the future? Will it hurt my future career? Will it hurt my future endeavors in academia or in a career path, in a certain career path? When it's like, yes and no. Maybe yes in terms of if the employer is not understanding, but most employers are these days. You know, most employers will look at you and be like, well, look at what he's going through. You know, at the end of the day, there's a human on the other side. You know, some of them might be more clear-cut robots, but there is a human on the other side trying to make this decision and trying to evaluate you as a person. And sort of like what their thinking pattern is, well, look, he's done fantastically in the first 3 years of school, maybe, and the last one where there was a global pandemic, he's done a bit poorer than expected. Well, obviously, they're not going to be like, well, no correlation. He still had to keep up the same grades.
Yeah.
There's no difference. So one important thing to keep in mind is that everything will hopefully go back to how it's been, and everyone will have time to adjust, you know. But again, like I keep reiterating this throughout this entire episode, is please make sure to take care of your mental health. Please make sure to always preserve, you know, your own well-being, because that's at the end of the day, that's what matters. And just to touch upon the changes that McGill has made, I love the idea of lecture recordings. I understand that professors aren't very hot on the topic because they think that students won't either attend their classes or they'll copyright the material, you know, stuff like that, you know, stuff that I don't really like to care about or don't really like to think about, but I should. Yeah, like whether that's supposed to be implemented in person is another thing that Apton will very wholeheartedly talk about for at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that's a positive change that's been made now, especially with the amount of content that's being released. You know, as Armand said, professors are looking to find a way to make it fair. So how do you make it fair when you know that, you know, everything's online? You know, and everyone knows what that entails. I don't want to elaborate. So how do you make it fair? You just release more content, more and more content, a lot more topics that haven't been covered before. And that has its plus sides. You know, students have to manage their time and study, and actually study. Otherwise, you'll fall behind.
Right. Yeah,
But it also brings the downside. You know, you have 24 hours in a day. Yeah, Apton, what were you going to say?
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I feel like the pandemic has really pointed out some of the flaws that are in the university and like the academia system. You know, something like tenure. It is like, I mean, I could go on about this, but like the fact that profs can get tenure and then like from an academic point of view, you can't do anything to them anymore. You know, like you can't hold them accountable over their actions. I think that's really something that's showing itself during this time, because some profs are just not empathizing with the current situation, unfortunately. You know, a lot of them are, which is good, but there's always, you know, whatever department you're in, whatever faculty you're in, I think there's always some profs that are just not, yeah, they just don't care. I mean, they're there to get their research done, and like teaching is like a secondary, like their hobby or something.
The fate of these students is my hobby.
Right. And
It's so true.
yeah, I think that this is like something that needs to be addressed within academia, like that the tenure doesn't mean that you can't just be held accountable to your actions in some senses. But yeah, and also it shows like how, I mean, I don't know, we had recording technology for God knows how many years, and it just shows that like how much of a push we needed to pursue like these new teaching methods.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. I mean, like, I don't know, after lecture recordings, whatever technology is going to come out that's going to potentially improve teaching, who knows what it's going to take to force the universities to actually pursue them.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's a
curious.
good point,
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious whether you've experienced this as well, Upton. It's have you experienced really low participation in classes as like, recordings have started? I've seen a lot of professors who rely on the back and forth interactions in class.
Yeah.
you went from like, at worst case, a 100% class would turn into a 25% class or like a 30% class.
Hmm.
Now it's turning into a 5-person class, a 10-person class. Like the
Yeah.
human interaction has dwindled so much, and I'm starting to see that um, on lectures. And do you guys have the same experience?
Hmm.
I mean,
I mean,
yes, but
someone, go ahead.
yeah, like I was gonna comment on this, but do you not think that that's attributed to the sheer amount of work that students have? Like, I have found myself missing classes just because I have 8 assignments due for the next 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like that may be manageable to some people, but for like someone like me who's trying to, as Upton said, create a work-life balance, get involved in extracurriculars, look for balance in all these things, and not to even mention the social aspect of things that I might have from time to time if Montreal permits me, you know? Like, not even mentioning those things. I am cooped up in my house alone for the end of time, till the end
Yeah.
of time, and I still have all these things to take care about. So factor in, maybe someone has a hobby, maybe someone has something else to attend to, maybe they have a family.
No.
Literally, maybe they have family members living with them and they need to adjust around the family schedule. You know, there's so many things.
For sure.
It's hectic. It's hectic. Being at home is
yeah.
really difficult for a lot of students. And, you know, being without your family is also one thing that people need to consider. Being with your family is one thing to consider. So, does participation drop? Of course. Do I feel bad for professors? Of course. You're sitting behind a screen teaching nobody.
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking, you know, you're looking to really find the fire in these students' eyes and try to take them forward with their academic endeavors. But also, as Abton said, some professors aren't like that.
That's true.
They don't care. They view teaching as a hobby, which is really unfortunate because you have all these students that are willing to learn. They're willing to put in the effort. They're willing to put in the time. So where do you say, okay, it's unfair on the students, and where do you say it's unfair on the teachers? That's what we haven't found yet. That's what is very, very difficult to find as well. Because what is the right amount of content? Arbitrary, student to student. You know, some people might have said the content before pandemic started was too much. But some people
Which they
might say it
did.
was too little, which they did, you know? Everyone is always going to have a complaint, and it's always going to be the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
So one thing to always, like, keep in mind is just an open view on things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that students are perfect. They're far from it. But I'm not saying professors are perfect either. You know, we're all trying our very, very best, and it's important to notice these things, but not penalize each other for it. You know, the students are doing well. Don't make their lives harder. You know, there's already like 8 more courses they have to think about in the next 2 years. You know, I think something that profs are missing, but maybe it's just from my experience, or not even from mine, you know, I'm not even going to talk about mine, I'm going to talk about solely my friends, which will not be named. My experience has been fine. But my friends, they say that their professors, for example, are maybe releasing too much content for one class and not considering that they have 4 more. Yeah. And for someone that's looking to get through university as fast as they can because they can't pay for it, that's an important factor. You know, how much content is the right content is another topic of debate that we can talk about for 2 hours.
Hours, yeah. That's a separate
hours and hours
podcast
on
discussion.
End, you know? This whole open topic has been truly something to talk about for hours and hours and hours, but whether they're doing it right or wrong is, you know, it's just difficult. It's just very, very, very difficult.
What,
I think,
what were you gonna say, Alton? I thought you were gonna.
yeah,
You were gonna
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I think he was just gonna pass it on to me, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, one thing that I wanted to say, like, I guess it's back to you, Armand. Like, what is your conclusive statement on this whole thing? You know, given that both your parents are in academia.
I think this situation, like you concluded, it sucks on both sides. There's no, you can't make anyone happy ever. Apton knows this in the position of an exec, and you learn this really either hardly or easily. You just can't make anyone happy. But what you can do is, like you said, have that open mind, be empathetic, be kind, and try to think and put yourself in other people's shoes. I see a lot of students complain, this prof doesn't know what they're doing, it's so bad. Okay, but the prof is also a human trying to figure it out in a global pandemic. You know, it's a lot of...
Yeah, for sure.
Just, you know, it's cheesy, it's corny, we're all in the same boat, but that's the reality of it. You just... sit down, try to get through it, try to support each other, and don't try to put each other down. I think that's a good...
Of course. If students are truly feeling, you know, disrespected or treated unfairly, you guys always have academic complaints forms that every department has in every faculty. So definitely submit your complaints through there, and everyone can look to improve their experience. But I think profs have done well in terms of their assessments right now. I would really feel uncomfortable if someone was looking at me at all times through my camera. And I know that's the reality for some students, especially in the States.
Hello,
So I
FBI
feel like
agent.
CSA in Canada.
yeah, literally. I think that Miguel has adapted well in that sense, and my exams have been, more than informative and fair. Like I feel like I've learned a lot from them. So I'd like to see where Miguel goes with this whole thing. I'll leave it at that, and I'll move on. So wow, we've talked about a lot of McGill experience questions. So I think I'm gonna move away from the McGill experience questions and
Okay.
say to both of you on a much more bright note, what was your happiest moment this year? That's a very difficult question to ask,
That
but
is a difficult question.
It's more difficult to even answer. So I leave you two to it. Armand, if you'd like to go first, please.
This whole year?
Let's say from March, from where
Yeah, can we
the
say like
pandemic
post-pandemic? Yeah, post-apocalypse?
post-pandemic. Yeah, post-apocalypse.
There's been some good ones. I had the luxury of having good friends around me for the summer, including you guys. The I can't pin one particular moment. It's whether it's a Friday night on Discord playing Among Us, getting to see Ampton again and talk to friends that are not in the city, or if it's just catching up with friends, playing outdoor beer die, being as safe as we can in the summer. That was a big highlight for me. Um, Post pandemic, I had the luxury and the chance to travel to BC this summer, and spend time with my girlfriend and her family, and that was also a big highlight for me for the year.
That's very, very nice. What about you, Upton? What would you say was your happiest moment or highlight
Oh, boy.
post-apocalypse, as Armand likes to put it?
Okay, post-apocalypse. Um, I mean, it was supposed to be, graduating and like that whole thing. Getting my iron ring. Uh, going to like one last
Oh
banquet
no,
and things like that.
buddy.
But I mean, I'm still like graduation was a bittersweet moment for me. It was like relief that I'm done with undergrad, but also like the fact that I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to all my friends and to the city that I lived in for the 4 years of my life. That was pretty painful. But after that, I think returning to my family, and being all of us being in the same place, after God knows how many years, has been nice because I mean my brother's in he's usually in California. I mean that's where he's doing his PhD. And I was in Montreal. My family was in Toronto, so we were always separated except for like I don't know Christmas or something.
Mm-hmm.
But now being able to like live under the same roof again, even though it's because of a crappy reason, it's because of a pandemic. But
Yeah.
being able to like spend time with each other again, I think that's been very nice, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, that's
That's
a little
awesome.
wholesome moment.
That's
Yeah,
very
I was
wholesome,
about to
yeah.
say that's a little wholesome moment.
Some after
Um,
wholesomeness.
Yeah, I have to say, class of 20 and class of 2021, you guys are champions, man. Best of luck to you guys. I mean, it's been hard, like not graduating the traditional way, one might say. But I hope you guys can get some fulfillment from your virtual graduation and some fulfillment from all that stuff. I don't have to worry about it for the next 3 years, maybe 4.
Minimum
Um,
3, buddy.
minimum 3 years. So I guess it's another topic to think about at some point.
Right, TBD.
Yeah, TBD is the best way to put it. So Upton, like with your whole undergrad experience, it passed by really fast. Again, like you said, you didn't get the chance to truly say bye to your city. But let's hone in on the 4 years itself. Do you wish that you did anything differently during your 4 years? Like, what would you say could be something that you did differently and that would have improved your experience? One might say.
Right, Armand is so invested in this in my answer.
I'm genuinely curious.
I don't know. So the thing is, like, I'm not real. I would like to say that I'm not really one person to regret things and be like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do this? I like to just like reflect on the experience and learn from it and move on. Um, I think that's like the ideal, healthy way to do it. But I mean, I'm far from that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I would change that much about my undergrad experience. I think I really enjoyed it the way it was, and the way I like the trajectory that I followed and the way I grew. I think that was very fulfilling, and it was a good experience. But I think I would try to just like chill a bit more. Um, like throughout my undergrad, I felt like I was constantly working. I mean, whether it was like school or involvement or research and things that I was doing, that sometimes I just wish I could like pause. Like it's like you're running on a treadmill and you just want to hit the emergency stop button and like just take a breather, but you can't, because like life just goes on. You have to keep running. Um, so I really wish I had more of a chance to just stop and like just take in everything that was around me. Like I was surrounded by so many amazing people at McGill. People that were more, I mean, more accomplished, smarter than me. People that I would learn from each day. Students, professors, and I was also living in an amazing city. Montreal. I think it's such a fantastic city to live in, and it just offers so much to you. And I just wish I had more of a chance to just take that all in and appreciate the moment, as opposed to being busy with everything that was keeping me busy. So yeah, just take more of a chance to reflect and appreciate where you are and what you have.
I think there was no better answer than that,
That's
honestly.
really wise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Once
I think
again.
I think I keep highlighting this over and over and over again, and I hope the viewers are tired of it by now because that means it's gone through to them. Guys, take care of yourselves, guys. Make sure you always like take the city and take your friends, then
Hmm.
spend time with them. That's the
Yeah.
the TLDR of it all, because life hits you fast, life goes by,
Hmm.
and suddenly you're working and don't have time for much else. So always take that in and always just appreciate, I guess. Yeah, even if you don't like the city, maybe you like some aspects of it, and if not, then that's a whole another topic as well. But if
Hmm.
you enjoy things here, then definitely take the time to appreciate some of them. I guess that being said, I'd like to probably move on to the last two questions, or topics that I wanted to discuss today. Armand, what do you think? We're talking about life lessons here now. What do you think is a lesson that took a long time to unlearn?
Ugh. To
Yeah,
unlearn,
loaded. Yeah, loaded question. Very loaded question.
unlearn. Upton said something really smart and really mature. Is that you look back and you reflect and you try to learn from that experience. So when I try to look back and see what I've unlearned, and I think the way that I would interpret this question is what are some bad habits that I had to recognize and work on. A lot of that is ego, ego and a sense of pride. Persians we're very proud
Classic Persian
people.
pride.
Yeah,
Classic Persian pride.
Persian
Yep.
pride. We're a very proud people, and it permeates in our culture as well. But personal pride can be damaging to no degree. If you think your head's full of all these thoughts of ego and accomplishment, when there might be, but if you expand it too much, then it just becomes hubris. And a lot, what I had the luxury of coming to school when I was 16. Part of that alone gives you, arrogance. And then
Of
I
course.
had the luxury of being extroverted and making a lot of friends early. That gives me more arrogance. That makes me think I'm well adjusted already in school. And then I get arrogant and I get proud, and I think that I don't need to worry about my academics because I'm fulfilling my social aspects, which is something that I've always wanted to work on, and something that I didn't think I had before coming to university. And that pride, of thinking, like you said, you're a big fish in a small pond in your high school. You okay? Now I'm practicing my sociability and I'm working on these things. It just hits you like a train, and then suddenly you're faced with this reality check of I'm dropping out. It's like I'm failing. This is what do I do? And then you still don't learn. Like I personally, I didn't learn after the first few times, that's why I'm here for 6 years. You're still arrogant. You still think, no, you know what, whatever. I'm well adjusted. I have a support network. I can just use that and get better. And then you start in denial. You're like, you know what? I don't even need a degree. I'll just go work. I'll go back home. Worst case, you just have to come to terms that no, you need to get your life together. You need to look inwards. You need to accept that this isn't something to be proud of. And that was the biggest thing for me, was to swallow my pride and accept that I was an arrogant person, accept that I have bad qualities. And a lot of people, it's hard to embrace that. It's hard to have introspection and be willing to accept criticism and say, no, you're right. This is what I did was horrible. This is what I said was bad. I want to work on this. I recognize this and I have to work on it. And that's a really tough lesson to learn, but I think that's definitely the one that took the longest and had the most impact on me, is that pride, is being able to, which is partially now when I see younger students who come in and they have this joy and this abundance. It's like, I want to do this, I want to do that position. Look at me, I'm like a whatever in a position. That's why I've been in your shoes. Don't do it. It hurts. It's gonna hurt you. But again, that's part of my pride, is me feeling the need to impart that. It's not my place. It's not. We can go on this for ages.
We can go on this for ages.
So
exactly.
Pride.
Right.
So I think one thing that I really enjoyed about, just this whole hour that we have together, is that the viewers and listeners and watchers can really take both sides of the spectrum, and here's what the reality is in both sides. You focus too much on one thing and you'll fail at others. So the key takeaway that I've had the pleasure of being able to draw from both these amazing individuals is that, work-life balance, top notch. You always have to make sure you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your academics, which is what a lot of people forget. Here you go, here you are. Here's two examples of that, and not even just 2, 3. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna say I'm here and I'm doing it perfectly, but learn from your surroundings, learn from your friends, learn from all of it. Mm-hmm. And just to, round it off, I know this has been a long hour, but I'll only take up another 5 minutes of your time, and especially the viewers' time as well. So I guess the last finisher for today would be, what would your younger self not believe about yourself today? And Abtin, you can answer this since you've been quite silent for a little bit.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I talk.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, we loved it. We loved it.
Yes, great answers. What would my younger self not believe? Okay, one thing would be that I'm balding at the tender age of 22.
You're not that bad. Come on.
Just Iranian things.
Yeah, it's just part of the process. It's in the genes. Don't worry about it, dog.
Wearing khakis.
Sorry, it had to come out some point. It's had to come out at some point.
But okay, a serious answer. Just the fact that everything turned out okay. Going back to the beginning of the podcast, that whole immigration story. When I did immigrate to Canada, I thought I was making a mistake. I did not want to come here because I was like, okay, I'm comfortable at home. I have my friends and all that. And why would I go somewhere else and start a new life? If someone had told me that things would have been fine, I wouldn't have believed them. But that is something that my younger self would not believe. Just knowing that things are going to be fine. You face struggles, but you learn to adapt and overcome them. And life surprises you in certain senses. And the other thing would be that, I don't know, I feel like younger Afton was pretty lonely. That's just something that I had, I really struggled with throughout middle school, elementary school, high school. Even high school I had a pretty bad experience. But I think coming to university, it was a game changer for me because I finally was able to find the people that I clicked with. And I was able to, form so many friendships. You two are, two examples. But there's so many more people that I got a chance to meet and like share this path with, and I am just like so grateful for that. And every day I'm just sad that I did not get a chance to say goodbye to any of these people and just tell them that like thank you for being in my life, and thank you for just like like thank you for just being. Like I had such an awesome experience in undergrad, and you guys were part of that.
Wholesome Apton's really coming out today. Wholesome Apton is really coming out today.
So yeah, that I guess that is another thing that younger Apton would not believe. But
What's your take on this, Armand? What do you think?
I agree with the loneliness. It's hard to make friends when you're in middle school, high school. I don't think anybody can. I don't think most can say they had the best high school experience. If you did, great for you, good job. But high school is definitely tough, especially if you did high school in Iran. I don't think my younger self would ever see myself in a relationship. Dead honest, like it's just because we also have segregated schooling in Iran, so just the idea that you're ever going to be, in contact with anybody remotely, you're just
contact with a woman. What?
Well, anybody. It doesn't have to be a woman. It can be anybody.
Or a man.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing for me, and that's part of what drove me to make a lot of friends and to build those relationships. It's not just romantic, but like interpersonal relationships. It's definitely something that I didn't think I would see myself be in. Also, a beard, like, dude. High key.
That's
growing a full beard. Yo, game changer.
Yeah.
On makeup for men. Makeup for men. On God.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's just I guess like just to wrap it up for something that I wouldn't believe, my younger self wouldn't believe. I don't think I'd believe that I was as sociable as I am now. I don't think I'd believe that I was
common trend here.
as well sociable, well spoken in some senses. Let's be real here. Like
you're pretty well spoken.
No,
I'm not the jack of all cards, but and hosting stuff like this, like I wouldn't have imagined that I'd be involved in school. That was something I really didn't do in high school at all. Involved in extracurriculars was not my thing. I thought it was actually dumb, but here I am, enjoying every second of it, and speaking to more and more brilliant individuals every day. So, some things change for the better. But I guess to wrap up, to wrap up my little hour and 15 minutes ish with you guys, I'd say thank you so much for your insight. Thank you for giving the viewers something to look forward to and something to listen to truly. And I really, really encourage everyone to take away important lessons from this. And I think the most important one that I can give out is work-life balance is always important. Make sure you take care of your mental health, please. And, keep doing your best because that's all that matters. Keep doing your best. Everything will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, okay. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, whatever superstition you have. Right. And that concludes our wonderful episode. Thank you so much, guys, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for all your valuable insight. And to the viewers, thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be coming out with more episodes shortly. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please share it with your friends. Please spread the word. It's kind of hard spreading the word online, but please do it. It would mean the world to us. And next on TPS Presents TPS. I hope people understood that pun. The People Show stands for TPS. You don't get it? Because the polar station.
Oh my God!
Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's it from me. Ciao.